Chief Advisor to the Prime Minister, Dominic Cummings, is expected to provide damning testimony on the government's handling of coronavirus when he appears before MPs.
Well, former UKIP and Brexit Party leader Nigel Farage once described Dominic Cummings as a horrible, nasty little man. So what will he make of this morning? Mr. Farage joins us now from Phoenix, Arizona. Good morning to you. Will you be trying to watch this with interest?
Oh, I will. I mean, it's one of the most extraordinary things that's happened in a very long time. Dominic Cummings is a very vengeful person and no doubt will try and get his own back on Boris Johnson. I suspect, though, that Matt Hancock will come in for even more abuse. The question is, he's already put out dozens of tweets about what he intends to say. Does he have another rabbit he's going to put out of the hat? And that's what everyone is waiting for.
You call him vengeful, but he was right there at the heart of government when all of these decisions were made. And it's absolutely critically important we get that story. Do you think that what he says is going to damage the government, or do you think he has already been undermined?
Well, I think he may well damage the government in the sense that there's no question they were going for a herd immunity programme to begin with that would have killed many hundreds of thousands of people, given that it was a new virus. We'd no idea how to deal with it. And then when they changed the policy, they still kept the flights open. 18 million people came into the UK in the first half of last year without a single person being tested or asked to quarantine in any way. So he's going to come out with all this stuff, but there's nothing new in that. You know, we've heard all that before. We know all of that. And Boris Johnson has half apologised for it already. The question is, does he have anything new? That's the part we're all waiting for.
You're in Arizona as part of a US speaking tour. And some questions as to how successfully it's going. How many people are actually turning up to your events?
So I've just finished an event here in Phoenix. There were well over 1,000 people there. Really uproarious mood. And of course, Brexit, the Trump phenomenon, these are all part of the same thing. We're fighting common enemies. And yet what you get are these ridiculous sort of cancel culture mobs putting out lies on Twitter that no one's turning up and all the rest of it. I've been touring now for 5 weeks. It's been very successful. Big audiences every single night. And don't believe a word of it.
It was reported the first date of your tour was reported to have attracted just 21 people, 6 of whom were members of your own team. Is that not true?
I know, and I can show you the photographs from that night. That was in Pittsburgh, and there were about 250 there. All right, not as many as 1,000 tonight, but still a very decent, respectable crowd. But this is the world we live in. You know, the left just make up fake news the entire time, such is their loathing and hatred of those of us that believe in national democracy.
Let's talk about Donald Trump, because the way you're speaking, Nigel Farage, you've clearly learned some lessons from him. How is he doing at the moment? Because with that talk of Twitter, it's been very quiet from Donald Trump over the last few weeks and months.
You're right. I mean, it's quite extraordinary that a man who had 88 million Twitter followers and was president of the biggest country in the world, most powerful country in the world for 4 years, has been banned from Twitter. Quite outrageous. He is going back on the road. I've been twice to Mar-a-Lago since I've been here. I've spent a fair bit of time with him. He's on good form. He's going back on the road. The rallies will start again in June, and he will get his message out. Of that, I've got no doubt.
Do you seriously think he'll run in 2024?
I think he's weighing it up very, very closely. I mean, he's 74. He's in, very good health, actually. He'd lost a lot of weight when I saw him, playing lots of golf, very determined, mentally, ready to fight again. But, between 74 and 78, things can, of course, go wrong. I would just say this. The Republican Party, in my view, hasn't got anybody else with his courage or his charisma. I know his style occasionally puts some people off, but he does have courage and charisma. And unless somebody remarkable appears in the Republican Party, I think there's a very good chance that he goes again.
Yeah. Has he accepted yet that he lost the election?
Well, here's the interesting thing. 60% of Republican voters, that's 1 in 3 people who voted in the American elections, doubt the integrity of the election result. And the reason for that, of course,
isn't it?
Well, I tell you what's not fake news. Tony Blair introduced postal voting in 2001, which has led to a massive increase in voter fraud in the United Kingdom, dozens of people going to prison. America last year, for the first time ever, experimented with mass postal voting, and maybe we should all learn a lesson from France. They've stopped it. They realise it's always unreliable.
Okay, so you're still putting out the idea that the election was stolen?
No, I've never said that. Not once. I've never, ever said that once. What I've said is that large-scale mass postal voting is always open to intimidation, ballot harvesting and abuse. And indeed, I have fought court cases on this in the United Kingdom. I've lost them because knowing something has happened and proving it is very, very different. Postal voting completely ruins the concept of election day. There is an argument for those that are elderly or infirm or working abroad. They should get a postal vote. That would be 2 or 3% of the vote. As it is, we get an election.
Somebody who lost a huge number of court cases or legal actions over it, of course, was Donald Trump. I mean, this is a ridiculous situation where we're still arguing about the outcome of the presidential election.
Well, as I say, 1 in 3 American voters doubt the election integrity. There is right here now, in Maricopa County, the biggest county in Phoenix, a big audit going on. I don't know what that's going to produce. I suspect what it will do is make Americans further doubt the integrity of the result. But the important thing, I think, for the Republicans is not to look backwards, it's to look forwards and make sure that mass mail-out voting never, ever happens again.
OK, I just want to ask a final question. And this is, I don't tend to believe conspiracy theories. But there's an interesting change in tone on the origins of COVID and whether it actually was something that was a mistake that originated in the lab. We know that Dr. Fauci has started sort of hinting at a change in tone on this. What do you make of that? And, of course, Donald Trump called it Kung Flu, blamed China for it. What do you make of what's being now reported about where the virus might have come from?
What we know for certain is that the Chinese covered up the outbreak of this virus, yet allowed their citizens to fly all over the world, taking it with them. The extraordinary thing is the World Health Organization view that it came from one of the wet markets in Wuhan is something many of us have been skeptical about. And yet, anybody that said this probably came from the Wuhan lab would find themselves suspended from Twitter, banned from Facebook, and mainstream media called it a conspiracy theory. Now it begins to look like it was true. Personally, I think it's very unlikely that this did not come out of that lab. I'm pretty certain that it did. And this is going to reflect, when this truth comes out, very badly on mainstream media and very badly on social media too.
Well, there's plenty that reflects badly on social media. Nigel Farage, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning.